Welcome to the American Roundtable, your half hour of political power. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Bill Strickland.
So happy to be here on Tough TV 38 in Orlando and the Tough TV network nationwide. American Roundtable is on your side. We are your news of the day. Let's check out our stories and go through what we got, and we'll be able to give you the down low on what's going on. This first story I find is the story of the day, and here's why. President Trump threatening to take away press credentials over fake news. I'm not really very happy about this story from the standpoint that just because you call something fake news doesn't necessarily make it so. And once you start taking away press freedom, that can lead to dictatorship. So this story is quite troubling to me personally, and so I wanted to lead with it. And Bill, what is your take on it?
Well, when you start muzzling the media, to me that's a problem.
Big problem.
And if someone tells a story, I think every person has a brain where they can reason it out and say, well, that doesn't sound right to me, or no, that isn't. But, you know, we live in a world that people are just brainwashed. Look at what happened in Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had propaganda put out there, people started believing it, and they bought into the system. And we have to be careful, and where you have something that's fake, you got something that's real. So pretty much the media has to monitor itself. If the media knows it's a fake story, then they should be the ones that counteract that. Or the person that the fake news is about, they should say, no, that's not what happened, and present the facts. You know, we've done this show for years, and I'm always the person that show me the facts. Show me what's real. And
I say show me the money. It's similar, but a little different. No, in all seriousness, this is from a tweet from the president, and I find this troubling because he's the leader of the free world. The last thing he should be doing is talking about taking away press credentials from the press. We are representatives of journalists, of the press, and so I find we like some of what Trump is doing, but this is crossing over a line, and we wanted to, of course, get it out there on Tough TV. This is the president's tweet, which was put out recently. He pointed out 91% of the network news about me is negative, and he puts in parentheses fake. Well, just because something's negative against you doesn't mean it's necessarily fake. The fake news is working overtime. Here's the quote. Just reported that despite the tremendous success we're having with the economy and all things else, 91% of the network news about me is negative, quote unquote, fake, and in parentheses, fake. Why do we work so hard in working with the media when it is corrupt, question mark? And then it says take away credentials. Trump appeared to be referencing a report by the Media Research Center. The MRC had looked at broadcast evening news reports of Trump from January 1st through April 30th and found 90% of the evaluative comments about the president were negative. The report examined 1,065 network evening news stories about Trump and key members of his administration, and it noted hostile coverage from ABC, CBS, and NBC. According to the study, the Russia collusion story was given the most time on the broadcasts of all stories regarding the administration. The MRC reported it took up to 321 minutes, or nearly one-fifth of all Trump administration coverage. It is a story. That's why. So we need to be aware of this. We'll have more for you on American Roundtable right after this.
there always seems to be something going on out, but whoever knows when a leak is really a leak and it tells the truth. So we've mentioned this before about the mole in the Trump campaign.
I have a mole right here, by the way. Getting it looked at.
Supposedly, the FBI had a mole in Trump's campaign.
What is a mole, for people who don't know what that is?
It's somebody on the inside that leaks it, gives information to somebody
Like a
else.
spy.
Like a spy, right.
Okay.
So they're trusted, they're inside, got the deal going on, and so they give out information. And like I mentioned before, with this whole Russian collusion thing, if there was really something in that Trump was up to back then, either the mole gave the If he had information, he would have given it, or it was a pretty terrible mole
Mhm.
that didn't give the information out.
Bad mole.
And we're talking, we've been in this investigation for a year, Al.
A year.
A year. So
But
it's like
nothing's really happening with it, right?
nothing has come out, nothing's been leaked, no evidence has been shown. And when you go after Trump's lawyer and break the client lawyer privilege, and you go after Manafort, which happened 10 years ago, that's a problem. To me, that's a problem. Let's talk today of what happened since 2006, and let's talk about what happened in Russian collusion, if that's really why he's Mueller's after Trump, what he's trying to find.
This is a huge story, without a doubt. And if you want to find out more about American Roundtable, we'll be covering this and other stories. Go to USA Roundtable, facebook.com/USA Roundtable. Also check out ToughTV.com. So happy to be here and on Tough TV 38. Here's a good quote from former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino. He says, "For the sake of the constitutional republic, you pray this story isn't true." So the very idea of such a possibility of a mole in a campaign means that Americans' God-given rights can be shredded. A human intelligence asset may have been inserted in your political rival's campaign. How is this not front-page news on every newspaper across the globe is stunning.
He has a point out. And did Obama know that this was going on? I mean, it's
Obama was, even though in some of those Huma Abedin emails was said, keep me abreast of everything going on in the campaign. There's nothing to say that he didn't know.
So how come no one is investigating what the real deal is on the inside?
How
Is
come
this more
nobody
the
investigating?
dark state?
How come nobody's investigating Pizzagate anymore? That's kind of gone by the wayside, hasn't it? The files that were in Huma Abedin's files from Weiner that were held by the New York City Police Department and examined, and nothing was released, and then it was handed back. These are questions that you have to ask in a constitutional republic. These are questions that are important to be asked, because it's very important to see if President Obama was spying on President Trump. This would harken back to the days of Watergate, when President Nixon was spying on his enemies. So has anything really changed in 40 years, Bill? That's the question.
Well, I don't think it's changed, but we could go back past Nixon, and I'm sure there's always been some dirty things that have been going on.
Dirty politics, dirty tricks, as Nixon used to call it.
But you're talking about new technology, finding out information, and to me, when you're looking into the opposition's campaign,
Yes.
that is pretty bad. It just goes to show you what some people will do to gain power. And it's pretty sad, really.
It is pretty sad, Bill, and it's kind of sad that we have to report on it, but we need to report on it to get the word out there to folks. And if you're concerned why this story isn't appearing on your nightly news and you're not seeing more about it, you need to call your local television station that's not Tough TV, because we bring it to you. You need to ask them, why are you not bringing this story out? Where is this story?
And keep in mind that this was originally reported by Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal. So this isn't something that
No.
we just picked up on the internet.
This isn't fake news.
That this was actually reported, and these people have sources, and it's nice to see some of them are coming out with the real deal.
More on this and other stories on the American Roundtable on Tough TV 38 and the Tough TV network.
Welcome back to the American Roundtable. So, I think people are really getting burnt out, especially since we're coming up with the midterms, about Stormy Daniels and the Russian collusion. I mean,
It seems to be the same story over and over again in different forms for the past year or two, year and a half. We're seeing that we keep hearing about this again over and over again. What's going on?
So, let's talk about, what's going on. One in particular, CNN. Stormy's attorney has been on CNN 59 times. And it's like, what more information you got to give? But to me, I'm looking at this saying, Stormy, as a person, is she being exploited again? she could be being exploited by the porn industry guys.
She's
out there.
not being exploited. She's in it for the cash. She's
But
not. She
her-
knows exactly what she's
Her
doing.
what is it that they're trying to accomplish here?
They're trying to take down the president. That's what they want to do. They want to create a scandal out of another Bill Clinton. That's all, except on the other side.
So now they're looking at where is her attorney getting the money? What is his background? And it shows that he was a Democrat operative that did some work for Emmanuel, who's now mayor of Chicago. So we got to take a look and, where everything's supposed to be hunky-dory with people, there's a lot of things going on. They are very connected from one person to another. And it's like this story is not important to most people.
So
And
you're saying that the ratings are down
the ratings are down 23% in the last year.
because people aren't interested in these stories.
No, I mean, they knew that Trump had certain traits when they elected him. They didn't expect him to be perfect. I mean, think about it. I mean, he's been married a couple times. When he met Melania, he was on a date. And so,
So you think these stories are not hurting him because he's not putting himself out to be the saint?
Right, I don't think he was ever presented to be a saint. He was presented to be a businessman because government is a business. And if you take a look at the positive things he's been doing, even though he's got 90% negative coverage, you got North Korea, you have all these things that are going on. He's trying to stop illegal crossings, and and the tax cut. He's making all these positive and you take a look at unemployment for Black and Hispanics are the lowest ever recorded.
So where's the good press about it?
They don't have the good press about it because
We're telling it though.
we're telling it. I mean, just we tell it the way that it is. If the guy was doing something bad that we didn't like guzzling the monitoring or controlling the journalists and press credentials, then we would say it.
Well, we do.
He muzzled that, or he wants to,
Yeah, we don't want that happening.
but he's done some good things. I mean, we're gonna in a couple weeks or soon he's gonna have a meeting with the chairman of North Korea.
The Rocket Man?
That's never been done before. So he is making advances that have never been done before, and you got to hand it to the guy. Like he says, why has he left this mess? I mean, Clinton, Eisenhower, Kennedy, LBJ, Nixon, none of the guys actually solved this problem because Trump is a businessman. He knows how to negotiate, and he probably, this thing with China and the tariff was all kind of like a leverage deal anyway.
Well, he probably told the Chinese to let let's create some dialogue, but let's change gears a little bit. You remember John McCain ran for president, lost in 2008. He's dying now of brain cancer. He's now kind of coming clean on some regrets that he has. One of these regrets is not picking someone else besides Sarah Palin, who turned out to be obviously a disaster. And instead, and I know she's still well liked, but she was a disaster as vice presidential pick. If she would have been good, he would have won. He debated his choice for vice presidential running mate in 2008. He first thought about Joe Lieberman. Remember Joe Lieberman? He ran with Gore in the 2000 campaign as vice president. And he said it was sound advice. I could reason for myself not to pick a Democrat, but my gut told me to ignore it, and I wish I had. He's saying reckoning with his history in the future via a final book and memoir, which he's currently writing. He calls passing on Lieberman, who also ran as a Democratic vice president candidate, another mistake I made. Lieberman said that it touched him greatly to find out that he was under consideration. We'll have more on this and other stories in this half-hour political power called the American Roundtable. Welcome back to the American Roundtable. Did you ever think you would think that there would be the day that the Boy Scouts, remember this is called the Boy Scouts, would bring in women or girls? I didn't think so. There's the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts. Girl Scouts do Girl Scout stuff. Boy Scouts do Boy Scout stuff. Makes pretty good sense, wouldn't you say?
Well, just another American
Institution
institution
gone
that's
by the
going down
wayside?
the tubes. You can't have certain mascots on college campuses. You got to get rid of certain statues because of things that happened 400 years ago. So this is just something else that, to make everybody that everyone is totally equal, which is not true. But the benefits of the Boy Scouts, I was never really a Boy Scout.
How come you weren't a Boy Scout? You seem to me like a Boy Scout type.
No, I was never into the outdoors. I was more into the music and arts and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. I wasn't a Boy Scouts, but I respect the Boy Scouts, and it's a good organization. But now the Boy Scouts program is becoming something called Scouts BSA in February of next year to reflect the decision to include young women.
So my question is, Al, so what is it that the Boy Scouts will offer girls that the Girl Scouts don't?
Nothing that I see.
What is this really
about? They do both. It's about getting rid of genders. We don't want to have genders in America anymore. There shouldn't be boys. There shouldn't be girls. There should be neutral genders where everyone is completely equal and there's no separation. I think that's the goal.
Well, when I saw this and they're getting rid of the Boy Scouts, but the Girl Scouts are keeping the Girl Scouts. Okay, well, if there's equality, then they ought to just merge the two and just call it the Scouts.
Yeah, but the Girl Scouts don't want this. They're
the
very upset at the Boy Scouts for letting girls in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What is it? Why are girls saying they want to be in it? Is it their parents that want the girls to be in it?
Yes, of course. There's been a call now, and it's happened in the military where women serve in the military, and they figure since the scouting is kind of like military for kids, right? In a way, you salute and you earn badges, which is like medals, and it's always been an organization to kind of train the next generation of soldiers. Really, that's what scouting's all about. Yeah, it's about it. There are benefits to scouting, which is self-reliance and learning and growing, but really what it's about, you're wearing uniforms, you're getting badges, you're saluting, you're taking oaths. It's really the military. It's kind of like what they do in other countries to kind of groom. So since the military's co-ed, they figure why shouldn't scouting be co-ed? But the Girl Scouts have long advocated that they want single gender scouting because they don't want the Boys and Girl Scouts going in the back corner and doing whatever kids do, exploration, and I'm not talking about trying to find a different kind of leaves. I'm talking about a different kind of exploration that kids are curious.
So I wonder if anyone's really gone out to these girls that are in the Boy Scouts and asked them the question, why do you want to be here? Was it really your parent that put you up to this?
Well, yeah, of course it's the parents. I mean, these are young kids, and so it's a change. It's a sea change. I don't think it's going to end too well. Now, you got this story. Tell me about this, getting rid of the Colonials mascot. What's going on with this?
Well, George Washington University, the students have come up and said, well, we find that offensive. George Washington was a colonialist. And they don't like the fact that...
But we were called the colonies. We were the 13
they don't like
colonies.
That because it's a symbol, the mascot is a symbol of oppression. And I'm like thinking...
How is it a symbol of oppression? We were the colonies.
That's what
it was thought. England who was oppressing us.
That's what they're saying. But they don't like that symbolism. So they're trying to create a movement to get rid of the mascot. And it's another one of those symbolic give me a break situations. You can't have something that actually represents George Washington, and he was oppressed just like everybody else who was in the colonies, taxation without representation. And it's just another movement. And you got to wonder who's behind all this. Is this another way?
Sounds like the Youth Communist League, probably.
Yeah, so it's another attempt to take down anything that's American or what America stands for. I mean, Washington.
Well, you want to hear what the petition reads?
Yeah, tell me what it reads.
We, as students of the George Washington University, believe it is of great exigence. They like to throw big words in to make them look better. That the university changes its official mascot. The use of colonials, no matter how innocent the intention, is received as extremely offensive by not only students of the university, but the nation and world at large. The historically negatively charged figure of colonials has too deep a connection to colonization and glorifies the act of systemic oppression. Alternative nickname recommendations are hippos, revolutionaries, there's the communist tie-in, or river horses. That's all I have. I can't even talk about this story anymore. It's ridiculous. How about legal secretary Sylvia Bloom? She died at 96 a couple years ago. Her niece experienced an oh my God moment. I realized that though she was just a humble secretary, she had millions of dollars that she had never mentioned a word. More than $9 million, in fact. And a surprising amount to amass, considering Bloom was a legal secretary for 70 years, and an amount that has allowed her to join the ranks of unassuming and magnanimous millionaires next door who died with fortunes far larger than their lifestyles would ever suggest. How the Brooklynite built up her surprising nest egg, one that even her late husband may not have known about, by closely observing the investments of the lawyers she worked for, and then making the same investments, but in amounts she could afford. That's pretty smart, huh? Bloom's riches came to light when her will revealed she was donating more than $8 million to scholarship funds to help disadvantaged students attend college. We were all just blown away, said David Garza, of the executive director of the Henry Street settlement, which received the bulk of the Bloom's money, $6.24 million, to be the largest single endowment by one person his group has ever received. She lived frugally in a rent-controlled apartment. She took public transit. She dressed modestly. So what do you think?
Well, somebody must have given her some good investment advice, Al. And whoever that person is, they can always get a hold of us.
It's nice the fact that she donated it to help underprivileged people attend college.
Well, she came from Brooklyn, so she was right there in the mix of everything going on. But, who's to say that's the only job she had, Al?
It said that was really the only job she had.
That we know about.
Oh. Well, anyway, this is the American Roundtable. I'm Al Spry.
And I'm Bill Strickler.
Remember, until next week, to keep it real.
And keep it tough.